kind of a fuzzy. They don't need to eat. No. So, and we call that capital breeders, as in they put on a lot of capital, and then you work all summer real hard at that in the fishing ground, and then you go to Mexico and enjoy the beach in Baja the rest of the year. Sounds nice. So yeah, they'll fast, typically fast 4 months a year, ish. Yeah. Other questions? All right. Yeah. Why go to warm water? It's such a great question, and we can give you a lot of hypotheticals. The obvious one is actually, here you go, mother and calf. The obvious one is to breed and to have their calves in a place that's calm, in a place that's sort of friendly. I think it's actually kind of less of the answer than some of the other reasons for it. This is a drone-based photo from Hawaii, and that calf was probably born on the way to Hawaii. There's multiple large whales like bowheads that do not go into warmer water, so clearly they don't biologically need to. There's a theory that by migrating to the tropics and then back, they're absent from a space where if they stayed here and bred here entirely, that killer whales would have a more stable population and there'd be more predation. That's a good theory. Certainly in the breeding areas, they'll gather together, so you have this kind of social space, which is like a great party. Cool, let's get together. And they actually do what's called delayed implantation, so they will give birth, and they're not ready to start growing the next calf. Actually, they'll typically breed, humpbacks will typically breed every other year. And so that other year, they will go to the breeding area and they'll breed, but they'll actually keep the cell, the egg will be inseminated, and it'll divide a couple times, but it won't implant into the uterine wall. So it doesn't actually start growing for a few months, so that they can breed at the time when they have the best choice. Oh yeah, if you only got one guy around, well, you take that guy. But you got a whole group, and there's actually a recent study that showed genetically that a small percentage of whales, of humpback whale males, are father to a very disproportionate. It's not. They don't breed for life or mate for life in any way. I think actually the best answer. I'm being long-winded because I don't see lots of hands. I think the best answer is actually skin condition. They actually migrate to warmer waters because when they're in these cold waters, lots of stuff grows on them. And think about, put your hand in ice water and your hand goes numb. Well, what's your skin doing when it's numb like that? It's certainly not growing and certainly not rejuvenating that most exposed to the environment part. We don't see that so much here, but certainly in Antarctica or in the Arctic, you see them just covered in barnacles and diatoms, and then they go to warmer waters and they shed that all off. So it's like an old wooden hulled vessel. You have to pull it out and careen the hull, scrape it down. I think that's the best answer. Yeah. Not good. Yeah, so the question, for all who didn't hear, is the status of gray whales. And it's not a species I study so directly, but we're trying to make the algorithm work well for gray whales. This is a different algorithm, this whole other tangent of development, but it'd be really fantastic if we could effectively, gray whales are identified by a lateral view, the patterns along their backs when they surface, and quite ideable, done manually, but it's pretty time intensive. So yeah, this mortality event that we recorded with this study was the second largest mortality event ever recorded for a large whale species since whaling. The largest mortality event is unfortunately of gray whales. So their population had an extended decline starting, I think, 10 to about 5 years ago, and I'm not precise with that because it's not my species mainly. But then it seemed to level off, and then this year again, there wasn't a single calf seen in the a woman named Elisa, the show manager, does this absolutely heroic, just day after day out on the bluff down in Southern California, watching the whales go by, counting, doing this gray whale survey. She's been doing it for years, and didn't see a single calf going south or something like that. And there's been, 3 strandings already in San Francisco Bay. It seems like it's another round of unusual mortality event, and it's tough for them, I think, largely because of the loss of sea ice in the Bering and Chukchi Sea. Is that, like, basically, what used to be a bountiful grocery store is now the shelves of a Russian grocery store in the middle of sort of its leanest times. So yeah, tough for them. Oddly enough, though, there's a small set that have done very well, and those are called the sounders, these whales that have learned to feed in Puget Sound and some of the coastal estuaries, where at high tide they go in and they dig and actually feed in mud flats, but they have to get out before the tide goes down, and this small set. So there's resilience there too. But yeah, by and large, the species is challenged. So is that a bit? Well, thank you. Pleasure.